Good evening, everybody. This is Arthur. I'm really happy to share with everybody that my Facebook, or rather my YouTube live feature, has been restored. So I have the chance to be able to go live again and talk about a couple of issues or just to share my thoughts on things. So this is President's Day 2018. And there have been a lot of articles that have talked about who is the best president, who is the worst president, and so I'm here going live, and I wanted to give my thoughts on it. I think it's a pretty fascinating source of discussion. Who do you think is the best president? Who do you think is the worst president? It actually ends up telling us a lot more about the people making the list, not so much about the presidents themselves. And I think that's really an interesting aspect to it all. I think it's also interesting going from one era to the next, how people view best and worst, and how what they're going through or what events are transpiring at that time, and how it colors people's views on best and worst. But for me, I think it's been consistent across time for me for however long as I've been alive. I will always say that the best president was Abraham Lincoln. First Republican, the president who freed the slaves, the president who fought to ensure that the Union was preserved, a president who had faced unparalleled frustration from the Confederacy, from slave owners, from corrupt politicians who were more interested in getting wealthy than caring about the long-term fate of the country. A lot of people don't know, Abraham Lincoln was not just a principled leader, but he was an effective politician. He knew how to engage in coalition building. He understood the essential necessity of putting together strong connections to ensure working, victorious majorities. So some of you are jumping on right now to the live feed. I'm glad you're here. I encourage you to share your thoughts. Who do you think is the best president? Who do you think is the worst president? I'd like to hear your thoughts. For me, the best president was Abraham Lincoln. This is a guy who had faced untold challenge. It was just incredible the life that he led. He was a postmaster in a county in Illinois. He was one of the worst postmasters. He had a terrible record. He had opened up a number of businesses and they failed. He struggled as a politician early on in life. He was elected to one term in Congress and lost, and that was during the Mexican-American conflict. He was a Whig. He believed in a strong national government that invested in internal improvements, roads, waterways, etc. The Democratic Party, had an immense amount of dominance at the time, and the Whigs served as like the anti-Jacksonians. That party eventually faded. Lincoln was opposed to slavery. It doesn't matter what some of the revisionist textbooks or history books try to claim. But the president had to develop a Union coalition, especially after 1862, because as president, the Republicans nearly lost control of Congress. Somebody's commenting here, 327, worst is a toss-up between Obama and Clinton. I would say that the worst president we've ever had is Barack Obama. This man came into office dedicated to fundamentally transforming our country. He was an arrogant fool who disregarded the constitutional checks and balances. He had no regard for the will and right of American citizens and individual liberty. He had no interest in cooperating with Congress. He had no recognition for what this country was about. He was raised to hate this country. His father was a radical, anti-colonial communist. And to this day, Obama's history is still shrouded in mystery. The library he intends to open up in Chicago is it's more like a monument. It's not going to even have books. So I'm not even sure what to think of that. That's just, ridiculous. Barack Obama will go down as the biggest fraud that ever perpetrated himself on this country. I say that Abraham Lincoln was the best president we've ever had. He was an excellent writer, an excellent reader. He was a dedicated and shrewd statesman. He knew how to reach across the aisle when needed, but he had a strong moral fortitude that did not tolerate treachery. This is a man who knew how to deal with multiple challenges. He knew how to recognize the talents in individuals, even people who were bitter rivals of his. There's a book called Team of Rivals, in which the president, Abraham Lincoln, selected an executive cabinet of qualified, accomplished individuals who had been staunch rivals, opponents of his, whether professionally or politically. Whether during the presidential election of 1860 or even before that, when Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer in Illinois. So I say that Abraham Lincoln was the best president we've ever had. Barack Obama is the worst president we've ever had. Some people commented in the chat below. They say that Trump is the best president we've ever had. It's a little difficult to make that final judgment only because he's only served one term. Somebody asked, Snake Power Force, didn't you used to support Ted Cruz? Yes, I did. I voted for Ted Cruz even in the primary in 2016. It took a couple of events and revelations for me to see that Donald Trump was trustworthy. I was never a never-Trumper. Never. I had pledged that if Donald Trump won the nomination, I would vote for him in the general election, and I did. When I recognized that Donald Trump was the only candidate who had reached out to the angel moms, who had worked with the Remembrance Project, he was the only president to comfort, solace, and identify with the loss of moms and dads who had seen their children, friends killed by illegals. President Trump received no money, no accolades. He didn't even get media time, but he would reach out to these families anyway. And that made it clear I could trust him. And that trust has paid off since then. I agree. I think Ted Cruz would be an excellent nominee to the Supreme Court. I know that Ted Cruz's legislative colleagues would be more than happy to send him out of the upper chamber. He's probably one of the most hated members of the United States Senate. I would love to see Ted Cruz on the Supreme Court. He is a qualified, constitutional conservative. He knows the law. He knows the legal process better than most. He would be an excellent nominee. Even Alan Dershowitz, who was Ted Cruz's one of his professors at Harvard Law, chose him. We got a couple of people who are still writing Lion Ted, and I think that's just sad, and it's unfortunate that people repeat that. I often challenge people on that. How did he lie? When did he lie? And people get shot down. I never tolerate that, even among Trump supporters when they say that. I challenge them on it, and they can't answer me because they don't have any proof of that. If you're going to talk about Lion Ted, you reserve that for Ted Lieu, my congressman. He's very much a liar, obsessed with the Russia narrative, which has been thoroughly debunked. He pushes amnesty, gun control, LGBT perversions. He's the epitome of a lying politico. That would be Ted Lieu, not Ted Cruz. Now, this is about President's Day. This is about reflecting on best presidents and worst presidents. So, the top 5 best presidents. Who would be, in my opinion, the top 5 best presidents? I said Abraham Lincoln, number 1. He's my first. I think the second one I would choose would be... Now we're looking at presidents. We're not taking into account their prior careers as legislators or statesmen in other fields. I would say the second one would be George Washington. He would be number 2. Number 3, yeah, I would agree, Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan. He would be the third best. I think you have to give a lot of props to George Washington because he established the executive precedent, and that deserves a lot of attention. Reagan would be number 3. Gosh, and who would be the other 2? That's a tough one. Best presidents. Best presidents. I guess Eisenhower would be number 4. Eisenhower would be number 4. And then for number 5... And then for number 5, you know, I have such a different attitude. Like I said, you know, best and worst presidential lists, that changes. You know, I used to think that a strong and very active executive is exactly what we wanted, but now I've seen how we want to see an executive who is very limited in what he does and he respects the rule of law. That's what has to stand out. I guess, you know, the fifth greatest might be Thomas Jefferson. I would have to give him that role for his 2 terms. I think that he still did a decent job running the country. He helped expand the country. Maybe James K. Polk would be in that list because he accomplished a great deal, even though he was a Democrat in 1844. That's when he was elected. So there's my top 5, I guess. It's something I have to think about. That's a list that I think changes for a lot of people. Someone comments, Eisenhower ran the death camps post-World War II. No, he didn't. Not true. So let's try to avoid, such, hateful, nonsensical arguments. There's just no basis for that. That's not acceptable. So there we are with President's Day. I had a really good day too. I'm meeting more candidates who are running for Congress here in California. Trump supporters, Latinos and Latinas for Trump. I'm really excited about that. I'm very happy to see that there is a lot of fight here. Conservatives are not going to allow our state to be taken away from us by a bunch of regressive leftists who want to turn California into Venezuela. So that's very special. I'm glad for that. I hope that we have outspoken conservatives who want to make California great again, who are running in every congressional seat. I am hoping that as the tax reform becomes more popular and more people realize that the president and the Republican Congress passed an excellent piece of legislation, everybody's starting to realize that the media has been lying this whole time. It's unbelievable. There he is. Yes, Omar Navarro. I absolutely 100% support Omar Navarro for Congress. And the more that the press and the more that the rhinos and the more that the corrupt media and the establishment attacks Omar, the more that I'm happy to support him. I've often joked, I don't care if he wears a blue dress and holds a severed head of Hillary Clinton in his hand. I don't care. I support Omar Navarro. I support Jasmina Saavedra for Congress. She's running in the 44th Congressional District against Nanette Barragan. I also support Marco Gutierrez, who's running against Jerry McNerney in the 9th Congressional District. Let me know about anybody else in the comments below. We have Diane Harkey. She's running in the 49th to replace Darrell Issa. I support her. In the 48th, who else would I support? Dana Rohrabacher. I support his re-election bid. I don't know what to say about the 39th because there's an open seat right there. There's a lot of people who've jumped in, Sean Nelson and Young Kim, and now I have to kind of think about who would be the best candidate to represent that district. We don't want to lose one seat. We don't want to lose one seat to a liberal. Democrats are putting all their money into California because they really think they can flip the House if they can flip every House seat. We have all these Me Too sexual allegations that have overwhelmed Sacramento. I certainly hope that gives Republicans in California a chance to make some moves in the state legislature too. Somebody's asking about Mitt Romney in the Utah election. You know what? President Trump has endorsed Mitt Romney, and that's fine. I say we have to understand something. Politicians have to work within the constituencies that they're elected to. If Mitt Romney is the guy who represents Utah, you can be sure he's going to be pushed around and he's going to do what he's told, because that's how these things work. I think that's just the way it is, folks. I think it's time for us to stop wasting our time with trying to get an absolutely perfect Republican in every U.S. Senate seat. What does matter is ensuring that there are more Republicans in the U.S. Senate next term. And I believe that Republicans have a great opportunity of scoring seats in the U.S. Senate and in the House. Democrats are becoming more disarrayed by the minute. I have a great article that's going to be hitting very soon on Town Hall. Democrats are not just in complete disarray, but they are fighting each other now over amnesty. So we have to work with what we have. We have to keep in mind, back to the Mitt question, Utah is Utah. That state is up to the residents in that state. They get to choose whom they support. And I think we have to start recognizing that. Switching topics, I absolutely support Travis Allen for governor. I think he is the perfect pick. I think that if we get enough energy behind him, we will be able to get him into the top 2 and make him the next governor of California. I am more optimistic about our chances of having Republicans competing statewide for constitutional office. I support Jack Guerrero for treasurer. I support David Hernandez for lieutenant governor. I support Mr. Steve Bailey for attorney general. What other offices are there? I don't know of any Republicans running for controller. I do know that Mark Moiser is running for Secretary of State. I support him too. So those are my endorsements for statewide offices at this time. For Insurance Commissioner, I support Peter Kuo. Those are my endorsements at this time for statewide offices. As a delegate for the California GOP, I've submitted my official paper endorsements to the state party on their behalf. So that's where I am with that. Everybody, I really appreciate your support. I hope you don't mind my asking. So I, like a lot of people, like a lot of activists, your financial support does assist me. I have a PayPal account. It is, I don't know how, if I'm able to comment on these or not. I'll try. But I'll be able to post this at the top of the video once it's done. Once I'm done sharing it. I appreciate any financial support you can send to me. You were able to help me get to Washington, D.C. for the Mother of All rallies last year. Whatever you're able to do, I appreciate it. I see a lot of good things that are happening for me and for others. I look forward to seeing competitive candidates for congressional offices and for statewide. I appreciate the love and support people are sharing here in the chat room. Thank you so much, Patty Cakes. We love you, Arthur. Thank you. I love you too. When is the next We the Peaceful Rising meetup? I will let you know about that very soon. I try to keep that stuff in-house. We don't want people knowing what we're doing. We don't want people to try to cancel events on us. I have no problem informing everyone, if you're in the Southern California area, I am pursuing a small claims action against the city of Huntington Park because they arrested me without cause. They placed me under false arrest. There will be a small claims hearing that will be at Downey Courthouse, February 22nd. That's at 7500 Imperial Highway, Downey, California, 90242. I would appreciate if you want to be there just to show support, whatever you want to do. Zachary Miller, met you at Mother of All rallies. I intend to keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Writing is my biggest passion, so I've been doing a lot of that lately. I haven't been doing a lot of outer activism. So just letting you know that's the thing that's been happening. So yeah, that's probably, you haven't seen me doing as many activities before. But let me just circle back. Here we are again. It's President's Day. Just to wrap up, I would say our best president was Abraham Lincoln, followed by George Washington, then Ronald Reagan or Eisenhower, and then I guess Thomas Jefferson. Donald Trump will probably be my second favorite by the end of his 2 terms. I would say, he's a very close second right now, at least, to Abraham Lincoln. This is a president who's faced unprecedented crises just within the first year, a corrupt media, a foreign policy that's been dominated by a growing rapprochement with the Korean Peninsula. He has witnessed and overseen the decimation of ISIS in the Middle East. The travel ban has been going into effect. Americans are safer again. Our country is stronger again. We have a president who will once and for all deal with the illegal immigration issue. I think that he has masterfully trolled the Democratic Party. He offered a 1.8 million person amnesty, but I never believed he was actually going to go through with it. What was really happening essentially was he wanted to show that the Democrats have never had any interest in solving this problem. They just want their unending chain of cheap votes, and the big business lobby wants their cheap labor, and La Raza wants their cheap militant cronies in their racist ranks as they try to take over key parts of the country. That's all that it's been about. But we as American citizens stood up to this, and we have a president who's finally championing the cause of the American people. Someone comments, we need to build that wall. Absolutely. We need to end chain migration, end the diversity visa. We need to take steps to ensure that the 14th Amendment applies to black slaves, not to illegals who dump their anchor babies here in this country, breaking into this country to have children so that those kids are automatically citizens because they were born here. That needs to stop. We need to ensure that the legacy of black slaves is not tarnished and misused for limited and corrupt political gain. Someone asks, which Freemasons president do you like based? I don't follow or care for that nonsense. That's, Freemasonry is another cult, and I don't support it. And I'm not going to waste any further time on that. So I've mentioned the 5 best presidents. I think Trump will be a very close second by the end of his 2 terms. Yes, I said 2 terms, 2 scoops, 2 scoops, 2 terms. That's right. 2 genders. Deal with it. Donald Trump is your president. That was one of my favorite tweets. I love the meme that John Nolte came up with. Merry Trump, Miss Bitches. And so I say to people, Trump is still your president, bitches. Deal with it. Deal with it. So there we go. Making California great again. I love this hat. People love this hat. Everywhere I go in Torrance and around in the South Bay, people love this hat. Glad to have it. I got it from Joe Reitkopf. She's part of that group, Make California Great Again. She gave me this hat. So you can talk to her, get a hat. Hopefully I'll have a chance to make Oregon great again. Someone asks, in my city, Baldwin Park, it's full of gang members. One of my best friends was murdered by a gang member. Terrible. Illegal aliens, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, they're murderers. We can't have this anymore. We as a country have a right to secure our borders. Don't worry, folks, there won't be an amnesty. The Democrats have showed their hands. One of the leaders of a key pro-amnesty group tried to reach out and support the president's 4-pillar compromise, and he was immediately lynched on social media for doing that. So that whole thing fell apart. I'm glad I could take this 20 minutes to talk to you. I'm glad to have this format back. I'm glad to have people who are commenting. Thank you for tuning in. Please feel free to share this. If you can, feel free to make a donation on my PayPal account. I will have that information provided once this video is uploaded. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching, and let's just keep working together to make California great again and make America great again. I don't have a P.O. box. I can put my email. You can reach out to me that way. I'll talk to you soon.